Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 1 of series 11 of Doctor Who, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. And this was a long time coming, man. The anticipation for this compounded itself for a long time coming, and I was gangbusters, even before getting into it, I'm gangbusters just coming off the heels of it. It was spectacular. There was never a moment of doubt, of question, of qualm, or issue with Jodie Whittaker's portraying the Doctor. In fact, I would go so far as to say that this was the Doctor tried and true. It just so happens that in her modern iteration, in her modern incarnation, she just happens to be the spitting image of the actress Jodie Whittaker. It was bar none, spectacular was her performance, and completely rooted me to the screen, kept my eyes, locked on and everything. And even before her actual appearance in the episode on the train, I was immediately compelled by the surrounding characters, the characters that are going to make up the triumvirate of friends or companions, whatever you want to call them, that are going to be TARDIS traveling with her through all of time and space. From the debut of Ryan and Graham and Yaz, Grace, for a little bit of time she's there, totally going out heroically and everything like that, and it really touched my heart. A lot of the relationship dynamics, especially with Ryan, I could really, they really appealed to me, and I could really relate to, because I'm somebody who lost my parents early on in life, had to take, guardianship of my sister, and for the longest time it's been just she and I surviving and going through the motions. And so where we leave things by the end of this episode, I mean, we're already debuted to the idea that this is a family sort of dynamic with, Graham and Ryan, with now the lack of Grace, Ryan's grandmother, and subsequently, Graham's wife. And so I'm kind of hoping we're going to see they're forging a closer bond, because they are sort of adversarial a little bit. They don't quite mesh too well together, and I'm hoping this is going to be a journey of discovery for those characters in how they're going to relate to each other and bound off of each other. And I hope they're going to, appreciate what they are to each other in the absence now of this person who was the link between them in the character of Grace. And with Yaz, I love the fact that, she is a police officer from right out of the gate. It's not sort of the faux twist with Amy Pond where she's wearing the, officer regalia, and turns out she's a kissogram or whatever it was. She is a proper police officer, so she's already, gone through training and all that procedural kind of stuff, and she's yearning for more. This is one of those character tropes, kind of goes back to Rose in the 2005, re-debut of Doctor Who, the modern series and everything, where she has a lust for something greater, and she's seeking something greater. She seeks greater purchase. And so from right out of the gate, that's Yaz in a nutshell, But she's also got the formality and the training and the skills just by her job, denotation alone. And so from right out of the gate, seeing that Ryan is a character with the dyspraxia, I think is how it's pronounced. He's already got challenges, and he, very much like his grandmother before him in this episode, he faced those challenges head on, and he did not give up. He kept picking himself up every time he fell on the ground trying to ride the bicycle. And just the idea that he will live on in her stead and make better choices in her absence, playing on what she would have wanted, and those kinds of things. And similarly for Graham, he lost his wife, and his whole speech at her funeral about kind of sort of wishing that they had traded places, that he had been the one to go, to shut down the spindly mechanism, whatever it was, up on the crane, and that it had been him who had gone away, and Grace would have survived, and that kind of thing. To know that he is in remission from cancer as well, it's something that, is highly relatable in the world, unfortunately, because of the disease that it is. And, I love the fact that these three characters, their characterizations, their personas from right out of the gate, are so relatable, are so compelling, and just the idea of how they will relate to each other, how they'll relate to the Doctor, and how they were already, coming upon this, being debuted to all of this. I like that, Graham is kind of the polar opposite to Wilf, who was ready to believe anything the 10th Doctor told him about aliens and things. And in this whole, opening debut episode, it takes Graham to the nth degree, to the very end, to actually be like, okay, I guess there's aliens. I guess that's a thing now. Whereas you had Ryan and Yaz, sort of bounding off each other and being like, sort of commingling. Are we sure she's an alien? Do we take her at her word? I guess so. I mean, everything we're seeing, from the train crash to the thing that appears, out of nowhere in the woods after Ryan throws his bike over the cliff. And I love the fact that it was stuck up in the tree. It's like Jurassic Park, with the van up in the tree or whatever. Only that bike, I wonder how he got it down, quite frankly. I'm thinking the Doctor probably helped to get that bike back down. But I was so amazed by all of this. And then when we're talking about like the creature, the alien, the Stenza, or Tim Shaw, apparently, the whole idea of sort of the Predator-esque taking the spoils of all of those trophies of old, the teeth, and then embedding them in its face. Like, that was properly creepy, properly just off-putting, and that's exactly the reaction they probably wanted. Like, you see that mask come off and you see the teeth and you're like, whoa. I was not expecting that. And I was wondering, I'm like, okay, it's probably like the Predator thing, spoils of war. He's not going to take the whole skull, so what's he doing with the teeth? Little could I have ever predicted he's just pocking them into his face. And then like the super cold body temperature and how that is an extension, or rather an extension of that is how he has dispatched all the human beings he's encountered, and things like that. I thought maybe he was feeding off their energy or something. No, just get them out of the way, including, the drunk guy with the salad, throwing the lettuce and tomato at him for some freaking reason. I have no idea. And then as the Doctor is theorizing, talking about, it's two warring, sort of semi-robotic, semi-biological factions fighting, using the Earth as a battleground, it really reminded me of the classic series, long-standing bout between the Sontarans and the Rutans. The Rutans, which, we only finally saw in the Horror of Fang Rock, I think, the first and only time, like a glowing, slimy orb a la, Slimer from the Ghostbusters, only without a face or anything like that, But they communicated with the Fourth Doctor at the time. He was with Leela. And I thought it was going to be something like that, like this grand battle between two warring factions. And then, of course, it turns out not to be that at all, the whole idea of the squid bowl and everything like that, of energy, and it having been sent there ahead of time by Tim Shaw, who's essentially cheating, so that he can claim ultimate power and everything in his faction. It was just really, really intriguing to me, and the whole crane sort of action element of this episode was reminding me of like a nighttime version of what we saw in the beginning of Casino Royale, the Daniel Craig James Bond film, where, he was running across, chasing a perp across, cranes in the daytime in the middle of this big construction environment. To have something like that going on in the dead of night, that much scarier, that much more thrilling. And the Doctor's willingness to run, to charge and run and try to go and help. I think the guy's name was Carl, that, Tim Shaw, the Stenza, was trying to capture and bring back as a trophy and all this kind of stuff. And I did feel a little bit bad for that guy, because he's listening to that tape, I am special, I'm important, I matter, I guess, it was kind of like a premonition of things to come for him, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective. And I like how the Doctor sort of, snapped back at him when he kicked the Stenza off the top of the crane. You had no right to do that. You have no say in the matter. Even though you're the victim here, you don't take retribution, you don't take revenge, that kind of thing. That's completely against the Doctor's principles, and I love that it was called to the fore in that moment, after just the most intense, amount of intensity in the whole episode. And then, of course, seeing the Doctor building her own sonic screwdriver, seeing her building a sort of vortex manipulator circuitry thing to link to wherever the TARDIS has gone off to, and hopefully manifest herself, warp herself to where it is. The whole last shot. She's effectively saying goodbye to her three new friends and inadvertently brings them with her to wherever the TARDIS is supposed to be, and then they all appear in the middle of space. It really reminded me of the last shots in the Fourth Doctor serial Genesis of the Daleks, when they have the time ring. It's the Doctor, Sarah Jane, and Harry, and they're sort of transported, not out into space as we end this episode, seemingly. Not quite. But, they're trying to find the TARDIS again because the Doctor and his companions were separated by the Time Lords to go back and influence the history of the Daleks, as the title suggests. And so I was reminded a lot of that. And I think that's something that came to the fore in my acknowledgement watching this whole episode. A lot of Fourth Doctor era things, seem to be coming to the fore. As I say, with the Doctor's speculation, what is going on with the Stenza creature and this ball of wires, this squid ball of energy and everything like that, and biomechanical nature, thinking it could be two warring factions, reminding me of the Sontarans and the Rutans, as I say. And again, like the idea of them being transported out to space. And I think you see Ryan like, oh crap, I'm choking. And the Doctor's kind of like, this didn't quite go to plan, did it? This was phenomenal. It was spectacular. I never had a doubt in my mind that it wouldn't be either of those two things. And I love the fact that Doctor Who's back. I love the fact that the Doctor is back. It's the Doctor, tried and true. It just happens that now she looks like Jodie Whittaker. And but she didn't skip a beat in her performance. There was no aspect of this performance that held any doubt, any question, that was not the Doctor on screen. And my favorite moment is probably right up at the top of that crane toward the end of the episode once again, where Tim Shaw, the Stenza creature, is like, who are you? For the umpteenth time. And the Doctor is just like, I'm glad you asked that, because a little bit of panic, a little bit of worry, a little bit of adrenaline finally got things working again. I'm the Doctor, and you better get the hell out of Dodge. And I was like, yeah, hell yes. So, to chime in with the Ninth Doctor's sentiments, this was fantastic, bloody fantastic. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of Episode 1 of Series 11 of Doctor Who, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, the debut of Jodie Whittaker as the titular Time Lord, which was muy perfecto, as far as I'm concerned. And but of course, I know there are people who are going to be detractors, who aren't going to give it a fair shake or anything like that. We've seen that abounding, and I really have no time for it anymore. This was cinematic, this was epic and grand in scope. It had great characterization and depth of character. I got myself misty-eyed a couple of times watching this. And I laughed out loud, and I was on the edge of my seat with anticipation, and because of the intensity, didn't quite know where it was all going, how it was all going to shape up. And it gave me all the best traits of Doctor Who's past and up to this point. It's the best Doctor Who yet. And I just can't wait to see what we have in store for us in the next episode and all the rest of the episodes that make up Series 11 proper, all the twists and turns that are coming, the characterization, depth of character, the adventures, the creatures, all that kind of stuff. I am completely on the edge of my seat, stoked and excited to see whatever they have in store for us. And so with that, I'd like to ask, if you enjoyed this video, please take some time to consider checking out my PayPal contribution link in the description below. In this time of uncertainty on YouTube with channel strikes and copyright takedowns and demonetizations and everything like that, I'd really like some certainty that I could stay afloat on YouTube, producing content like this in the future, and any contributions you saw fit to throw my way would just be gangbusters to me. It would keep me afloat and would make my day and would keep me going strong. It would be a direct line to me, and of course you have all kinds of options as far as doing it in a monthly, faceted setup, or one-time only donation toward my efforts and my video content. Anything you saw fit, frankly, to send my way would just be very much appreciated. And so yeah, with that, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later.